Every autumn, roughly 30 million Koreans travel across the country in a single long weekend. That is more than half the entire national population on the move at once. The occasion is Chuseok, Korea's harvest moon festival, often compared to Thanksgiving. On the surface, it looks like a warm homecoming, but a survey by the Korean Institute for Health and Social Affairs found that more than 60% of married women reported significant stress specifically tied to Chuseok preparations. So here's the question worth sitting with. How does one of the world's most celebrated family holidays also become one of its most quietly dreaded? The scale of Chuseok movement is staggering. The Korea Transport Institute estimated that during the 2023 Chuseok period, intercity passenger trips exceeded 42 million over 5 days. Highway travel times between Seoul and Busan, normally about 4 hours, can stretch to 8 or 9 hours. But the stress is not just logistical. A study published by the Korean Women's Development Institute found that women spend an average of 5 to 6 times more hours on Chuseok food preparation than men do. Divorce filings in Korea also show a consistent seasonal spike in October, the month immediately following Chuseok. A separate poll conducted by the job platform Saramin found that over 70% of Korean workers said holiday family gatherings increase their anxiety. The numbers tell a story that the holiday's festive image does not. Chuseok's roots go back more than 2,000 years, likely originating during the Silla dynasty as a harvest festival tied to lunar agriculture. The core ritual, charye, the ancestral rite, requires meticulously prepared foods arranged in a precise order on a ceremonial table. These preparations were historically the domain of women in the household, codified by centuries of Confucian family structure that placed the eldest son's family at the center of ritual life. When Korea industrialized rapidly through the 1960s and 70s, millions of families moved to cities. But the expectation that daughters-in-law would return to the husband's hometown and cook for days did not move with them. It simply became harder to fulfill while also holding a full-time job. The ritual survived modernization. The labor conditions attached to it did too. The financial cost of Chuseok is considerable. The Korea Consumer Agency has reported that average household spending during the Chuseok period runs to several $100,000 Korean won in gifts, food, and travel alone. But the deeper costs are relational. Therapists in Seoul have noted a marked rise in couples counseling bookings in the weeks around Chuseok, according to reporting by the Korea JoongAng Daily. Younger generations are beginning to push back. A survey by Embrain Trend Monitor found that a growing share of Koreans in their 20s and 30s now prefer spending holidays with friends or alone rather than attending formal family gatherings. There is even a Korean term for the condition, Myeongjol Jungagun or Myeongjol Jungagun, which roughly translates as holiday syndrome, a recognized cluster of fatigue, anxiety, and physical symptoms that appear before and during national holidays. Korea's Chuseok is not unique in its contradictions. Thanksgiving in the United States, Diwali family gatherings, Chinese New Year travel, every major family holiday in every culture carries some version of this tension between the ideal and the reality. What makes the Korean case instructive is how clearly it reveals a specific pattern. When social rituals encode a gender division of labor, the emotional weight of the holiday is not equally shared. And when modernization changes lives but not expectations, that gap becomes a source of chronic, quiet strain. The real story of Chuseok is not about ingratitude. It is about what happens when the form of a tradition outlives the conditions that made it feel natural. That is a question every society eventually has to answer for itself.